So in this video, I'm going to explain about Python functions. Now let's get started. So functions are the reusable pieces of code which help us to organize the structure of the code. So we create functions so that we can run a set of statements multiple times during in the program without repeating ourselves. Now let us see how to create the functions and how we can return the values from the functions and so on. Now let's start with the PyCharm. So here to demonstrate all kinds of examples of functions, I'm just going to create a new project here. Let's go to new. Let's create a new Python file. So I will name it as a Python functions. I click on OK button. Now here, let's see how to create a function. The simple function we can create by using def keyword. Okay, def, the name of the function, right? And the brackets. So here we can pass some kind of parameters, and then here, and we need to specify the colon, and here we need to write all the statements. So this is a basically syntax of writing a function in a Python. Now all the statements will be part of this indentation. So you have to start with here. Now let us see how many ways we can create the functions, how to return the values, and so on one by one. The first thing is in the function, suppose if you don't have to write anything, right, we can just write a keyword called as a pass. So basically what this will do is it will just basically omit the body of the function. It will omit the body of the function. So it is a pass keyword. So we can just use pass keyword like this. So when I call this my function, so nothing will happen. When I run this function, we need to call like this. Let's say run this function. It will give you name error because this function my fun, right? So name is different. Now let's run this code and nothing. We don't get anything, right? So we can just skip the particular body of the function by specifying the pass keyword. Now let us see how many ways we can create the functions, how to return the values, and so on one by one. So first let me show you how to create the functions. So creating the functions. So here I will just create a simple function called def. Now my function name is sum, right? So here this function will take two arguments. Let's say the first argument is start and the second argument is end. So inside this function, once you put the colon, so inside the function I will just find out the sum of the numbers. So when I pass a number, starting number, ending number, it should find out the sum of all the numbers. So that's my program. So here I will just take a result variable, and which is 0, and now I'll write one for loop to repeat from the starting point to ending point. Let's say for let me take a variable called I in range. So when I need to start, I need to start from the start. Whichever parameter I pass here, that will be passed here from the beginning end plus 1. So normally starting point, if I say 2 here, right, it will start from 2. So if I say end is equal to 5, it will end with the 4 itself. So that's the reason the starting point range function is always give the last number always -1. So we have to do the +1, end +1. So here, so if this condition is true, suppose I in range between start comma end +1, then I have to add those numbers. Let me just result is equal to result +1. So every time I will add that number. So the simple logic is simple here. So what I can do is here just I'm taking some range. So for example, let's say 2 to 5. First I'm reading one value, right? And then another value I am adding here. Another value I am adding here. Next value I am adding here. So till 5. So this is simple logic I have created. Now result equal result +1, and finally I'm printing this value. Once we get this loop, so come out from the indentation. Now I'll print this value. Print of result. Okay, so this is a simple function I created, which this function will take two parameters, and result value, initial value is 0. Now it will pick up each and every value from this loop and add that value into the result. Once this loop is completed, at the end we will get the exact value in the result variable. Now I have just printed. Now this is a definition of the function. How we can call this function? So if you want to call this function, come out from the definition and write my function. So write a method called sum. Right, so here you need to pass a parameter. So 10 comma 20 I have passed. Right, so now when I run this code, It will give you what it is giving. 11 it is giving. What is giving? It is giving 11. Why it's giving 11? Some method, right? Start end. Result equal to result plus 1 we are doing every time. So it will take, sorry, it is not result equal to result plus 1. Okay, so here we have done n plus 1. Okay, so here we did a small mistake. So instead of result equal to result plus 1, we have to put I here. Because every time I will get the value from the range, right? So we can capture that value and add that value. Now when I run this code, we will get exactly 165. So if I have 10 to 1, between 10 plus 11 plus 12 plus till 20, if you add, you will get exactly 165. Right? So this is how we need to write a simple function in Python, and it will take parameters, and also it will put some, it will do something inside, and finally it will print the values. And sometimes the function also can return some value. Function also can return some value. Suppose the same function, okay, if I want to return some value from this function, so what I can do is, so instead of printing the result here, don't print this result, just return this function. Okay, use a return statement. So when I use return statement here, so the result will not print here, it will just return it. Now, how we need to hold that value? So this function when I call, I have to hold that value, right, in some variable. Let's take a variable called some s is equal to some. Now here we need to print that value, print of s. Now what happens is the same function now this time is returning some value by using return statement, right? So now run this code and it will print exactly the same thing. Fine. And one more thing here is sometimes you can also use the return statement without return a value. So here we are using we are returning some value, so that we are using return statement. But sometimes even though if I don't return any value, we can still use the return statement. But in that case, what this will return? It will return some value called as a none. Okay. Now let me show you one more example. So here I will just create one more function, same function. I'll just small modification. I'll take a parameter called start and colon. And here inside the function, I will just I'll verify certain condition. If start greater than end, start number is greater than end number, what I should do is, just a moment. Yeah. So if the starting number is greater than n number, so what I should do is I will just print some value. So let's say print. So print start should be less than end. Start should be less than end. And along with this, I will also return none. So yeah, I don't specify anything here. Okay. So return means none. It will return by default none. If I don't return any value, by default it is return none. And suppose if start is greater than end, I have to continue the rest of the code. So here I will just say result variable result is equal to 0 initially, and then I'll write a for loop here. So let's say for same logic we have used the previous example, right? Same thing, I in again a range, and here I will just say start and n plus 1 and colon, and here I will just do result is equal to result plus I, right? And then I will print the result value at the end. So just or I can just return a result. Okay, now observe this logic. So I will pass start and end values. So if the start is greater than end, so it will not do any sum. So it will just print start should be less than end, and then it returns nothing. So this is basically none. And if this condition is false, and then it will come here and it will add all the numbers between starting number and ending number. Finally, it will return the result here, right? Either this function returns either none or it returns some result based upon the values we passed, right? So first now I'm just passing the value here. Let's say sum. So 10 comma, or let's say give small number. Let's say 1 comma 5. Okay. When I say 1 comma 5, so 1 is greater than 5. No, right? So the condition become false. So if the condition become false, this what this will return? It should return null, right? Now when I run this, so there is empty. So nothing is returned. So let me just store the returned value in some variable. Let me just result, right, or s. So now I'll just print that value. Print yes. Okay, now run this code. So here you can see 15 here. Why you can see 15 here? Why you can see 15 here? Because we have passed 1 comma 5, right? 1 is a starting. Okay, starting point is 1, 5 is the end, right? So 1 is greater than end. So something went wrong here, right? Okay, so here when I run this code, what is happening here is it returns 15. So that means this condition is not become false. So when this condition become false is if when this condition becomes true is when the starting number is greater than the second number, ending number, then this condition becomes true, right? So when I pass 1 comma 5, so the starting greater than end, this condition become false, so that it is written 15, perfectly right. Now when I say here 5 comma 1, right? So starting value is greater than 1. So that means the if condition is matched. So we are printing some message and returning none. So when I run this code, now it gives you none. So if I don't return anything, it will produce none as an output. Okay, this is a one more example. This is a one more example. So in Python, if you don't explicitly specify the return value from a function, right, and then a special value, none is always returned. Now I'll show you one more example here. Let me just write a small thing. I'll just create a function, a def function, but my function name is test, right? And here I will just put I is equal to 100. So here I haven't specified any value. Okay, but in the previous example, what we have seen, if I say just a return keyword, and but we don't specify, we didn't return any value, it gives none, right? But here I haven't written anything here, right? So now I will just call that function, test function. I'm just calling that function, right? After calling this function, I just put that into print command. So what this return, what the function will return. So run this code and this will give you none. In the both the cases, it returns none. One is if the function, okay, so having return statement, right, without having anything, in that case also it returns none. And the function doesn't specify any return statement, by default it will returns none. Okay, so this you need to remember. So function is having a return statement without any return value, still it returns none. And if I don't specify even return keyword, okay, when I call that function, this will also return none. Fine. So this is how we need to create a functions and passing the values and get the returned values. Now we'll move on to the next one. So global variables versus local variables. Normally the variables that are not bound to any function but can be accessed inside as well as outside of the function are called global variables. And local variables which are declared inside a function are called as a local variable. Simply in Python, if let's say this is our program, so we have created some function. So this is my function, right? And if I create some variable here that is limited, the scope of the variable is limited to this particular function. This is called as a local variable. Local variable. Now outside of the function, if I create any variable here, that will be considered as a global variable. So global variables can be accessed outside of the function or inside of the function, whereas local variables can be used only within the function. Now we'll see a few examples how to work with these global variables and local variables. Let's go to PyCharm once again. So here I'm going to show you a few more examples how many ways we can work with the global variables and local variables. Now let's see one example here. I will just create one variable. How to create a global variable? Let's say global underscore var and let's say some number called as a 12. So this is a global variable. This is a global variable because this is created outside of the function. Now I will create a function. So let's say def function, right? So this is a function. So inside the function, I will create one more variable. Let's say this is a local variable, local underscore var, and here I'll make it as 100. And here this is called local variable. This is called as a local variable. Now suppose, as I said before, right, the global variables are accessible anywhere within the function, outside of the function. But local variables can be accessed only within the function. Now let us see here. Local variable I created, right? So here I will just print the global variable. Okay. So I'll try to access this global variable within the function. So how we can do that is I can just print that. Print of global print of global underscore var. So here I'm trying to print the global function, global variable. So you can access global variables inside this function. So inside this function, you're able to access this. Now, when I run this code, it gives you exactly it's not giving anything, right? Why it is not giving anything? Maybe parameter is different. Okay, local variable created 100 and print global underscore var. Let's run this code once again. It's not giving anything. Okay, so we have written the code for a function, right? But we haven't called this function, right? So let's call this function. Now, how to call this function? Let's say func. Now run this code. This will give you exactly 12. So what does it mean is we are able to access this global variable inside the function. We are able to access this global variable inside the function, right? So the variables which are created outside of the method or outside of the function is called global variable. The variables which are created inside the function are called as a local variable. Now let us try to access this local variable outside of the function. So here I am trying to access. Let's see what kind of error it gives. Print local underscore var, right? I'm directly trying to access this local variable outside of the function. Now when I run this code, it will give you a name error. Name local var is not defined. So this is not correct because we are trying to access this local variable outside of the function, right? So similarly, we'll see a few more examples. So here what we have understood is the variables which are created outside of the function, they are called as a global variables and we can access them within the function. And the variables which are created inside the function, which are local variables, we cannot access them outside of the function. All right. Now I'll show you one more example. So in this example, what I can do is I will just take two variables. Let's say xy is equal to 100. And now I'll also, this is a global variable, right? So now I'll create a function called as a def, and let me just take cool, right? So this is a function. In this function, I'm trying to use the same variable again here. Let's say xy is equal to 200. Xy is equal to 200, right? So now what happens is I will just print xy here. I'll print xy. Now what happens is here in this case, this xy is a global variable and this xy is a local variable. So xy inside the function is totally different from xy outside of the function. Okay, so outside of xy, this will be treated as a global variable, and inside the function, xy will be treated as a local variable. Okay, now let us see when I call this function, let's say call this function, now run this function, so it returns a 200 because xy is located within the function, so the print function is printed xy here. Okay, so whichever variable we created out of the function is a global variable, and again if I create the same variable inside the function will be first priority will be given to the local variable, right? This is a local variable, so xy value is printed. Okay, now what I can do is I will just try to access xy directly. Now print xy. Now what this will return? So when I use cool, and this returns actually 200. Okay, because within the function we created a variable, and this print xy printed the local variable value. Now when I say print xy, as I said, this print function or print statement is out of this function, right? So this is able to print 100 now. So when I run this code, it should print 100 here. So here you will get exactly 100, but here you will get a 200. So when I create a variable, same variable as a global variable and local variable, when I print this value within the method, that will be printed the local value itself, local variable value itself. Okay, remember this. Now this is a one scenario. This is a one example. Now I'll show you. And in this example, what we have understood is when I use the same variable name as a global variable and local variable, right? So within the function, if I print that variable, it will be taking as a local variable value always. Okay, this is one scenario. Now I'll show you one more scenario now. And here I will just create one more variable t is equal to 1. Let's say this is a global variable again, right? So in this global variable, okay, so what I can do is I will just create a function, let's say diff, and I will save it as increment. And this is a function, and inside this function, sorry. So inside the function, what I can do is, just a moment, right? So this is a function. Inside the function, suppose I want to use the same variable here again. So what I can do is, I can just say t is equal to something. Suppose t is equal to, I have specified some value. So as we discussed a previous example, let's say I print t here, okay. And now when I call this increment method, what this will print, the value of t is 10, it will print, right? 10 it prints. Why? Because same variable name we have used as a global variable and a local variable. So it is first priority is given to the local variable and it is printed the value is 10. Perfectly right. Now what I want to do is, still, even though if I use the same variable as a global variable and a local variable, I want to treat both of them as the same. I want to treat both of them as the same. Then what I should do now is, I can just make this t as global, okay. But when I say this variable as a global, this variable act as a global variable now. So now there is no difference between this t and the t which is created inside the method. But one thing we need to remember, whenever I create a variable as a global, we cannot directly assign the value here. This is incorrect. This is incorrect. Okay, so instead of this, what I can do is, here first to define the variable. So global t, and then assign the value. So let's say t is equal to 100, I can say like this. This is perfectly right. Okay, so what we understood here is, whatever variable we use as a global variable, we can still use that name as a local variable. But still I want to make, but the Python will treat both of them as different. Okay, one is a local and one is a global. But now what I want to do is, I want to make the same variable as a global as well as local. Okay, it is not local anyway. So as soon as you say a global is a keyword for that particular variable, it becomes a global variable, even though it is defined in the local method or local function. Okay, so but the restriction is, as soon as you specify this variable as a global, you cannot directly assign the value here. So instead of this, we have to split this statement into two parts. Just create this variable, same variable name you have to give, and specify the global keyword, and then you can assign this value here and then print it here. So now what this will return, now what's the t value here, 100 will be printed here. This is perfectly right. And after coming out this function, right, so let me just try it out first. Run this. Now 100 is printed. So when I call this increment function, so t is initially 1 here, but internally what I have changed is 100. Now it exactly printed 100. Now I will access the t as a global variable. Okay, it's not in the method. Now let's see how it will happen. So print, I will print the value of t now. So when I run this code, it will again print the 100. So even though we have started with 1, right, once it is declared in the method, I have changed the value of this variable, and it automatically changes the value in the here and as well as here. But one thing we need to remember, whenever I say this variable as a global within the method, that variable becomes a global. Okay, so again we no need to specify here, not at all required. You can also remove from here. So whenever you want to specify a variable, you can directly specify that in a method itself, function itself, and then specify the global keyword if you want to make that variable as a global. Okay, now it will perfectly print the output. So let me have t as a global variable here. So as soon as this change, this value t of value of the t is already changed in this method, right? Now run this. It's both of them. So what we understood based on this is, we can create same variable as a global within the method. So far we have understood global variables can be created only outside of the function. But now I'm telling, we can also create the variables inside the function, make them as a global by using a global keyword. But the restriction is, as soon as you created variable, we say that variable as a global, you cannot directly assign the value. So you have to write a separate statement. Okay, so this is a one more example. Now let me show you one more example. Now Based on this, what we understood, we no need to declare any value outside of the function. So we can still create a variables inside the function, and we can make them as a global. Fine. Now let's move on to the next topic called passing arguments to the method. So how many ways we can pass arguments to the method or function? So argument with the default values, there is a positional and the keyword arguments, and mixing positional and keyword arguments. So there are different ways of different ways we have to pass values to the parameters to the function. Now let's see a few examples here. So first I'll show you arguments with the default values, and then we'll show you keyword arguments, and then we'll show you mixing positional as well as keyword arguments. Now let's go to Python. Here first I will create a simple function called def function, and here I will just and this is the first method, passing argument with the default values. Passing argument with the default values. This is an example for passing values with the default values. Now I am creating a function. So in this function, I will just create two variables, let's say I comma j. But if I want to pass some default parameters for these variables, you can just assign that default value. Let's say j is equal to 100. I'm assigning. So what does it mean is I no need to pass this value from the actual method. So if I don't, we can still pass it. But if I don't pass this value from the actual, when I calling this function, so by default it will allocate 100 to the j, and I can just pass only I value, that is enough. Now here inside this function I will just write print I comma j, print I comma j. Okay, so I have just created a function which contains two variables, and the first variable I haven't assigned any default value, but here j is equal to 100 represents the default value. 100 is a default value of j, right? Now I will just call this function, and I will just pass only one parameter. Let's say I will just pass only 50. Now what happens is this will call this function, and 50 will be assigned to the I, and I haven't passed the second parameter here, so that by default j will be taking as 100. Now internally it will print I comma j, means 50 comma 100. Now let's run this code and you will get 50 comma 100. So perfectly right. So here these are the positional parameters. So positional parameters means same order we have to pass, and initial value we have assigned, that is the default value we have assigned. Default value we have assigned. So for example, when I pass like this, let's say function, and I'll just say 50 comma, okay, 50 comma 250. Now how it will work? So when I say function 50 comma 250, the first parameter will go assigned to the I, and second value 250 will go and reassign to the j, because j is already 100, and whichever the new value we are passing it here, that new value will be override with the old value. So old value will be override with the new value. So now j value become 250 now. So when I run this code, this will print 50 and 250. Okay, this is one more example. So if I pass only first parameter, it will allocate to I, and second value is the default we allocated, so the default value will be taken care, so 100 is printed here. In the second example, I pass the first value along with the second value. So when I pass second value, the default value will be override with the new value, and then we'll print the output as a 50 and 250. So this is a passing the arguments with the default values. These are all positional arguments. All right. Now I'll tell you one more method. Okay, that is keyword arguments. So we can also pass argument using keywords. Now let us see how we can do that. Let me just remove this one. Now again I'll create one more function here. So definition, and I'll name it as a named underscore args. Okay, this is my function name, and here the first parameter is name, and second parameter I'll just say some greeting. Okay, first parameter is name, second parameter is greeting. So this is a function I created, method I created. Now here inside this function I will just add these two parameters, concatenate those two parameters. One is name, greeting, right? So first I will write greeting, okay, and then concatenate with, give some space, and then add a name. Suppose when I say hi, pass as a greeting hi followed by your name will come here. Okay, now so this is a function I created. Now let us see how we can pass these parameters to these variables. Now I call this function name args, and here I'm not passing any positional parameter. So when I pass like this directly, suppose my name is, let's say, Pavan, and comma when I say hi. So this is a positional arguments. Okay, these are the positional arguments. So when I run this code, it will give you exactly same. This is a positional arguments. Positional arguments or positional parameters. So based on the position, it will go and store. The first value will go and store in the name. Second value will go and store the second. This is a positional, right? Now these are positional arguments. Now I'll show you keyword arguments, how we can pass as a keywords. And instead of passing the direct values here, I can just say named underscore args, right? So here, what is the first one? Name, right? So I can just say this keyword, name is equal to, and in the strings we can put in the double quotes as well as single quotes in Python, right? So you can use any one of them. So here I will just say name and comma, and what is the other keyword? We have a greeting, right? So greeting is equal to, let's say, hi. So this is the other way to call this function. So here this method is called as a keyword arguments. Keyword arguments. Keyword arguments. So we can just directly specify the variable name and value, and again variable name and the value. So when I run this code, it will also give you the same thing. And one more facility we have is we can also write in reverse order. So order is not important here because this is not positional, right? So I can put this greeting at the before the name itself. This is also perfectly right. So this will also give the same thing. So hi. And this arrangement is not important because we are not focusing on the position. Right? Whichever variable we have assigned this value will go and store in that particular variable. Right? So this is how we need to use keyword arguments. Keyword arguments. Now we can fix the positional and keyword both also. We can use. So in this first example, I have just used positional argument. In these two examples, I have just used keyword arguments. Right? I can also combine these two. So how we can combine these two? So we can do like this. So for example, okay, to demonstrate this, I will just take one more example. Let me just remove this. So here I will just create one more example. Let's see here. This is a mixing of positional and the keyword arguments. I will create one more function def. My function name is my underscore function. I'll take three parameters. Let's say a comma b comma c, and this is a function. Now in this function, I will print all the values in proper order. Let's say a comma b comma c. All right, this is my function. Now observe this carefully. Multiple combinations I will pass. So first I will pass position arguments. Okay, so how we can pass my underscore function, and let's say 10 comma 20 comma 30. So this is the positional arguments. So when I run this, it will give you 10 comma 20 comma 30. So perfectly right. So this is positional, right? Positional arguments or parameters. Now see this example. Okay, so here what I can do is my function. Okay, the first value I will directly pass as a positional. Let's say okay 10. So positional. So the 10 directly will go and assign to the A. And the second value I will pass as a keyword. So for example, B, C we have, right? So here B is equal to, I will just say 20, and C is equal to, I can just say 30. So here what I am doing is 10 is a positional parameter. So the first value will directly go and store in A. Now second value I have provided the variable name along with the value. So this is a keyword along with the value. So in the third position also keyword along with the value. So here I have used positional arguments. The first parameter is a positional, right? And the rest of them are B and C are the keywords, keyword arguments, right? This is also perfectly right. When I run this, it will give you exact result. And here we need to remember, and this is also, we can also write the same way, different way here. And you can just pass C value here as a 30, and you can pass B value here equal to 20. This is also perfectly right. Because in the keyword argument, order is not important. Okay, when I run this, it will also give you the same output. This is also perfectly right? So, but here there is one restriction. So the restriction is, for example, when I write like this, my underscore function, right? And first parameter I'll just pass as a positional parameter, and second parameter I will pass as a keyword argument, and the third parameter again I will pass as a positional parameter. Okay, this will give you wrong. So in Python, if you want to mix the positional and keyword arguments, so first you have to specify all positionals, and at the end you have to specify the keyword arguments. So in this scenario, if you observe here, so first one is positional argument, perfectly right, but second thing is also position. Second thing is a keyword argument, but after keyword argument, you should not specify again one more position argument. So that is the wrong thing here. Okay, so positional argument must appear before any keyword argument. This is a positional argument must appear before keyword argument. So that's the reason this went to wrong here. This is incorrect. This is incorrect because positional argument must be appear before any keyword argument. Okay, so this is a incorrect statement. So what we understood based on this example is we can pass positional arguments along with the keyword arguments, but the rule is first we need to pass all positional arguments and then followed by the keyword arguments, right? So this is a concept of positional arguments. How many types, how many ways we can pass arguments to the function or method. Now let's move on to the next concept, returning multiple values from a function. So normally function will return a single value, right? But here Python support, we can also return multiple values. And we use a return statement as usual, and those values will be separated by comma. Okay. And whenever function returns multiple values, those values will be treated as a tuple. Okay. Those values will be part of a tuple. Now let's see how we can work with this. Let's go to PyCharm again. So here I will just create a function. Let me just create a function called as a def, right? So bigger here a comma b, right? A comma b colon. So this is a function. So in this function, what I can do is I'll put one condition if okay, I can a greater than b. If a greater than b, so what I want to print here is I want to print. I don't want to print anything. I just want to return it. Okay, so return because the function can return multiple values as it, right? So if a is greater than b, then I will return two values, a comma b. Both I will return. Suppose if this condition is false, else, right? Else I will return. Okay, else I will return b comma a. Okay. So if a is greater than b, I will return a comma b, and or if a greater than b is false, then I will return b comma a. So in the both the cases, I am returning two values. That means more than one value, right? Now let us call this function here. I'll just call bigger of. I'll just pass 100 and 200. And as I said, this one will return some value, right? So the returned value we have to hold in some variable. Let's say s is equal to. And one more thing here, in other Java and other languages, one variable can hold only single value at a time, right? But here this function will return two values. Return a comma b, return a comma b comma a. In the both the cases, even though condition is passed or failed, so in the both the cases it returns two values. And here the single variable can hold two values here. Yes, by default, if I store two values, that will be treated as a tuple or list, right? In the Python, we can store multiple values in a single variable. If it is a list or tuple, right? By default, so this return statement, so this function returns two more than two values, right? So those values will be treated as a tuple. Okay, those values will be part of the tuple. Now let's print this yes, and we can see print yes. Now let's see the output here, and perfectly print 200 and 100. Now as I said before, whatever values have written will be treated as a tuple, right? So let's see what kind of type it is. What is the type of s? How we will know? Python, we have a function called type, right? So when I say type of s, this will return exactly what type of variable it is, and then print that value. Print type of s. Now it will exactly print what type of it is. perfectly right. So this is a belongs to tuple type. Okay, so these are all about the functions. So we can also return multiple values using functions, and those values will be treated as a tuples. Okay, so that's all for this video. So thank you all. Please subscribe my channel to get more updates on this. Thank you.